be honest, I quite enjoy making people happy. I know we can't always make people happy, but that is what I like to do.
Welcome to Island Influencers, where we share stories of successful business owners, experienced professionals, entrepreneurs, and community leaders based or with influence in the Isle of Man. This podcast is brought to you by Thornton Chartered Financial Planners, because great financial planning has the power to change your life. Now here's your host, Sharon Sutton.
Welcome to another episode of Island Influencers. This week, I have the privilege of featuring Jackie Betteridge, the remarkable CEO of Crossroads, the largest third sector organisation on the Isle of Man. When Jackie took the helm at Crossroads, it was a small organisation, but under her leadership, the workforce has grown by an astounding 500%, and the number of volunteers has increased by 100%. Crossroads is an organisation dedicated to caring for carers, working with families and individuals of all ages. They deliver an impressive 160,000 hours of care annually, which is a testament to their commitment to supporting the community. And the work undertaken by Crossroads is both complex and rewarding, addressing the diverse needs of those they serve. Jackie's passions extend beyond her professional role, and her tight-knit family holds a special place in her heart. Jackie Betteridge and I delve into the services provided by Crossroads in episode 91, sharing insights into their operations and future plans. From what she reveals, it's evident that her dedication to helping the Isle of Man community is unwavering, and her purpose shines through in everything she does. Join us as we learn from Jackie Betteridge's incredible journey and gain a deeper understanding of Crossroads' invaluable contribution to life on the Isle of Man and its community. So I'd like to welcome Jackie Betteridge to the Island Influencers studio. Thank you so much for coming out to record today. It's a pleasure to meet you, and I've been reading all about you in the press and seeing the sort of splashes that you've been making in order to advance the cause for Crossroads.
Absolutely.
Thank you for agreeing to being the guest.
Pleasure.
If you don't mind me asking, would you tell us your story and how you come to be in this role today, and what sort of...
Absolutely. I suppose I moved to the island, over 30 years ago. So my husband and I had lived around the world. We've got 3 kids, and they were born in different countries.
Wow.
Last one was born in the Isle of Man. And so we moved, and my husband worked off island. So he used to actually commute. He would catch a flight out on a Monday morning and fly home on a Friday.
Gosh.
But I did have, my mum and dad had moved to the island a few years previously, and my sister.
Okay.
So we had a family network here.
Yeah.
So I sort of carried on and brought my kids up and did all of that. And then I also always was involved in volunteering. So I volunteered for the Guide Association. I did school swimming. I was a swimming teacher for the island. I worked for Youth and Community for the island. I put on countless shows at the Gaiety Theatre that I directed.
Yeah.
And
which ones?
So, we put on the Guide. The Guide show was an absolute sellout.
Yeah.
And I put on so many youth and community shows, I can't actually remember the names. And then along with, I worked with Alex Brindley from Manx Radio.
Yes.
And we made a couple of films with kids. Feature-length films. And so my background, I suppose at that stage then had become very much about children.
Yeah.
And what happened was there was a job that was going at Crossroads for Young Carers Lead. And I went for the job and got the job. Thoroughly enjoyed working with the young people. And then after a few years, we had a bit of a change of management. And for a few years there, Crossroads literally didn't have any leaders. It was just us that were doing either adult services or children's services. So after a few years, they put out to see if they could find a senior leader for the organisation. And actually, it was my colleagues that persuaded me to go for it. I had no intention of doing this, by the way. Absolutely no intention of doing this. So, yes. Anyway, I went for the job and got the job. Mm-hmm. And it was Christmas time, and I remember I was in ShopRite in the alcohol aisle, and my husband was in a different aisle, and I thought, oh dear, now I've got to make a decision. So I said, could I phone them back? So anyway, I phoned them back. Cut a long story short, I started then in the January, and that was 22 years ago.
Yes, okay.
Yeah.
Wow, that's quite some time, isn't it?
So it is a long time.
I thought you were going to tell me, I had to have a bottle of gin right there and then.
More or less. Anyway, so we did that, and the organisation was quite small and struggling. And so I had to set about turning it round. Now, I did not do that single-handedly. We did that with a load of people. And some of those officers are still with Crossroads today. So we ended up being a family, really. And it still has that feel, despite there's 120 people work for it, and we've got 100 volunteers. It literally still feels, very personal. I hope very caring. So that's how I got into the role. So we went from, I think there was about 20 of us work for Crossroads to now there's 120 of us.
Wow, that's a big payroll as well, isn't it?
It certainly is, yes.
Gosh.
And we deliver about 160,000 hours of care a year, so that's a huge chunk.
Yeah, I read that. That's impressive.
Yeah.
It's still probably not enough, though.
Oh, no. I hate waiting lists, but unfortunately they do exist.
Yeah, they do. Yeah.
And times are tough.
Yeah.
But I don't think there's enough understanding still. We've done a couple of pieces of work around this, around what the impact of people not caring would have on the island, opposed to the fact people do it and we just expect people to do it.
Yes.
And that's a worry, because it's really odd, because we'll give to animals, we'll give to children, we'll give to anything, but there's no proper understanding of the fact that carers, and by that I do mean husbands, wives, mothers, daughters, sons, whatever, are the backbone of keeping the Isle of Man on its feet when it comes to health. It would cost a heck of a lot more if those people didn't exist.
Yeah.
So Crossroads is about their voice and about making sure they're recognised. And anybody who knows me will know that I'm absolutely passionate about it. And anybody that tries to argue it down, I can argue it up a million times over.
That sounds reassuring. I mean, I guess there's a lot of pressures in those roles. I see it in my own family. The sort of the generational gaps, just the demographics around it, and the different pressures from generation to generation, and how that impacts on a whole family unit and when something happens.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I think everybody thinks, or we start off, don't we, thinking that everything's going to be great and really easy, and you might get married, have your children, yada, yada, yada. But life gets in the way, and things get in the way, and health being one of them. So 3 out of 5 people will become a carer. And if you're not a carer, I guess you're going to be the cared for. In Crossroads has been now going for 35 years, and we've got some people that have literally been carers and now being cared for.
Oh, gosh.
So we've still got 13 families on our books that were on from day one, 35 years ago.
Good grief.
And the demographics and what that looks like has changed hugely.
Yeah, do you think, well, I don't know, I've got my own views on this, but, locking people up had to be done, I suppose, with the COVID pandemic. Have you seen a huge increase since that, or not really?
I think from that, what ended up happening was that it sort of magnified the intensity of caring. So Crossroads carried on throughout the pandemic, and we took over doing home care for government. So we were out in it.
Yeah.
It was an interesting piece of work I am really very, very proud of, and I'm really proud of the guys that work for Crossroads that did it. Everybody put their uniform on and everybody went out there 7 days a week.
Yeah.
But for the carers, I think it really magnified the intensity of caring, because you couldn't leave, not even for a second. And I think it was really hard for most people. So I think if that's what you do, but you had, say you used our services and your loved ones might come into Crossroads, or we might go and deliver care in their houses, if you weren't receiving that becomes really difficult.
Yeah, having a family member going through it at the moment, it seems that every unit you speak to, whether it be older person's mental health, or whether it be
younger people,
hematology, everybody.
Oh, every bit of it.
It's all more.
Yeah.
It's increased
Yes.
more, and I mean that must be I mean, it's overwhelming for families. It must be overwhelming for the professionals that are involved.
I think it is, or it can be quite overwhelming. You have to be very dedicated to do this kind of work. And, there is that adage, are they paid enough? Probably, absolutely not. But if we're not careful and we constantly talk about how much something costs, the value of it ends up being nothing. And that, I struggle with that. I didn't go to work for Crossroads because financially it was going to make me huge amounts of money. I do it because I genuinely care. And I think each and every one who works at Crossroads, be it in finance, be it in our nurseries, be it out in the field, be it anywhere, is definitely, it's about a passion that they have. That's not to say I don't feel that people shouldn't be paid accordingly, but I think the world is ready for a reshuffle.
Yeah, I remember seeing an article a number of years ago, probably ahead of its time, that said that, we were looking for a new niche, the island, and we could actually professionalise the carers sector so that all carers from the Isle of Man were on this world-leading programme that showed how it should be done. And properly recognised, and of course, I don't think it ever.
It didn't happen.
Didn't see the light of day. But do you remember that article?
I do. Yeah. And I think I'm very passionate about the social care side of it, because for me, your GPs and your hospital, all of that primary care, and we've got secondary care and all of that. When you actually go home, it's your loved ones that look after you.
Yeah.
So if you've been somebody that has had a diagnosis or had a stroke, or these are life-changing events. And my passion is about the people that, their loved ones that are looking after them, so that they get the opportunity to be seen.
Yeah. You mentioned before the strategy that has just been, did you say relaunched or?
No, so the state of caring, we did it back in 2018-19, and our intention was to do it again, but then obviously COVID came, and it was a bit pointless really to do it because no one was in the right headspace after COVID.
Yes.
So we've just done it, and we've done it this time in conjunction with the Department of Health and Social Care. And it was the findings of what it's like to be a carer. So it's out there. Anybody can read it. It's fascinating piece of research done by Crossroads with the help of the Department of Health and Social Care. Now we are writing the strategy with the Department of Health and Social Care. And obviously Manx Care will get to be part of that to make sure that it can be rolled out. Everybody thinks it's about health, and of course it's not about health. It's about whether you employ people. It's the government as a wider reaching. These are the citizens of the Isle of Man, and they're not just a select few.
Yeah. No.
If that kind of makes sense.
It does. Yeah. It's much wider than anybody.
It always makes me laugh, because it makes them sound like they're like a breed of their own, and it's like, no, they actually probably still have to go to work, pay bills, do exactly the same as us. They've just had something that's life-changing happened to them.
Yeah.
I know. It's like, okay. It's like they're not widgets. They are actually human beings that should be celebrated. And I know this is really costly, but we just have to work out a better way of doing it. Believe me, having a charity that has to find £3 million a year to run it, as an organisation, as somebody who has to run a business, we get very creative around how we manage to deliver that 160,000 hours of care.
Yeah, that sounds a huge challenge. So how do you manage to go about doing that? What have you got?
Well, actually, we've got something really exciting.
Yeah.
So we've just opened a new facility. So upstairs in the facility, it is a community space. So we're going to have various community activities.
Right.
We're working at anybody who wants to look at the space. It's got a little cafe up there.
Right.
And then downstairs, it's a second-hand shop, which we obviously have several across the island. And the reason we've done it is twofold. Obviously, we need to bring in some of our own money, and those shops really help us to bring in much needed funds.
Yes.
But also we've done the community space as a bit of a payback because we couldn't get the money in if the folk of the island weren't bringing their second-hand goods to us.
No. That's where all our stuff goes, by the way.
Yeah, good. So it's a bit of a payback having this space upstairs. So we're not charging for the space upstairs. We're just going to use it. We have our own nursery for children, not only that have needs, but also children that don't have needs. So it's an all-inclusive nursery. It's the only one on the island that's all-inclusive. And we're going to run mums and tots from upstairs. So if you've got any worries about whether you think your child developmentally isn't where it should be,
and what ages is that from? Very little babies.
From very little babies, yes. So we're just putting that together now to look at what that is. We will do. We run a listening service for any carer that's in a bad space or needs help or needs paperwork. We'll do that from there. There's anything that is to do with any element of caring, be whatever it is. We will have that space upstairs for folk to use.
Oh, that sounds great. And whereabouts is it going to be?
It's in Tynwald Street. So anybody who knows whether it used to be the Tynwald School, it's opposite. I think it used to be, was it called Road and Track?
Oh, I know. Yes.
It's quite a big
yes, just off
building.
Bucks Road.
Yes.
Yeah.
By Bedco.
Yes. Everybody will know where that is.
Yes, yeah. So,
superb.
Yeah, so we're really excited. They took me around it and I thought, good gracious, this is a big space. What we're going to do with it? So the community space, I think, is a really nice idea. And whilst we're all very good at going, we don't mind disabled people or people who don't function the same way as we do, in truth, I'm not sure that is true. That's also a passion of ours to go, we're all human beings. Yeah. So let's just work together.
Yeah, so it's about being inclusive.
Absolutely inclusive and really inclusive, not just pretending at being inclusive.
Okay, very good. Very good. So I note that from the bit of research I managed to find anything about you that you also sit on various boards and panels, including the island's Council of Voluntary Organisations. So what's that involve?
So I'm actually the chair of the Council of Voluntary Organisations. It's looking at pulling all third sector organisations, charitable organisations together. That must sound really easy, but actually it's not, because you can't make anybody do it.
No.
So it has to be those that want to.
There are a lot of charities, aren't there?
There are a heck of a lot of charities.
Yeah, 600 and something I heard with.
Probably more than that.
Gosh.
Yeah. I don't know how many are active, but I think there's about 1,000 on the books.
Oh my goodness.
If you look. But anyway, so it's about pulling those together and looking at fairness. So we look at things like procurement, we look at legislation, we look at how we work. So anybody who works in health and social care, how we fit into the transition, all of that. So anything and everything around.
So it's like sharing good practice and...
Yeah, and we're very good at going, right, has anybody got a policy on X, Y and Z?
Right, so
okay.
Collaborative.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
Because it's got harder and harder to run a charity.
No, absolutely.
And just Crossroads alone, we have registered services. So we are registered, as health and care professionals.
Yeah.
So we have to also, there's guidelines, we're inspected, there is all of that.
Yeah,
but years ago, there wasn't.
No, and I don't know, is every charity complying with this stuff yet? It's a massive undertaking.
I think it's a really hard undertaking, and I wouldn't like to comment really, because it is a massive undertaking.
Yeah. And I see why it's. I mean, a charity's got to be properly run.
Absolutely.
Because you've got public funds there, and presumably government funds in some respects. So it really has to be properly compliant and regulated. And
I'm really hot on governance.
Yeah.
I feel safe working if I think our governance is correct. And I think sometimes that's quite hard to do, perhaps for other organisations.
Yeah. Before we move on, Crossroads carers, what should be the first point of contact for someone? When should they call you?
Right, so it's an interesting one, isn't it? So part of what the State of Caring pulled out was the fact that everyone on the island is entitled to a carer's assessment, but they're not being done.
Right.
And so that is going to be in the strategy, because the minute somebody has a diagnosis or their change of home life is because of something that is to do with health and social care. The carer should receive an assessment in their own right to check that they understand what lies ahead of them. Are they able to do that going forward and what that might look like?
Right, okay.
So what tends to happen is somebody ends up either going home from hospital or you could have a child that is born with a disability and everyone muddles through it, which is why Crossroads ended up coming to the island 35 years ago. And over a period of time, we've changed what that looks like, but anybody can phone Crossroads. So there is no referral through your GP you can literally lift the phone yourself. And if you feel you can't, get a mate to do it, because we are literally at the end of the phone. We have a listening service, we have physical services, So
Manx Care don't automatically get in touch with you, that it's up to the family to get in touch with you over and above what Manx Care deliver?
Absolutely.
Right.
And we're going to look at what that looks like going forward. So it's quite good, because Manx Care coming in will change how this works.
Yeah, because there's a lot of assessments going on, aren't there? Because they do assessments.
Yes.
Occupational health do assessments, mental health do assessments.
But that's always around the patient.
It is always around the patient. Yeah.
And I have a passion that who lives with the patient is the people that we are there for.
Okay.
If that makes sense.
It does make absolute sense. Thank you. So maybe you could tell me all about the services that Crossroads runs and how they work.
Okay, so whilst we're there for carers, obviously carers need respite.
Yeah.
And I'll start with the nursery. So going way back, mums obviously have their babies, and then if your baby isn't able to attend a normal nursery, it became quite difficult for parents, because where do you go? How does it work? What does it look like? So we opened a nursery for that, which has grown and grown in strength.
Gosh.
Yeah. And so it is basically there for any child that has an additional need, be it whether they've been born deaf, whether they've got severe and complex, it doesn't matter. That's what it was made there. That's why we did it.
Yes.
But we also have regular kids in there. And my own grandchildren have actually been through our nursery and have come out lovely human beings, I have to say. It is a beautiful, beautiful nursery, of which we're very proud. And the girls that run that are amazing. I think we could do more, but that obviously would have to come with a wad of cash for us to be able to expand services. We also have nursery nurses in the community.
Right.
So they're in the community at the people's nurseries, because obviously our nursery is in Douglas and not everybody can get into Douglas. We run a massive young carers project, huge young carers project, and that's for young people who are in a caring responsibility within.
Imagine how hard that is for a youngster.
We have over 200 on our book, so
goodness.
it is a lot. And then we've got sort of, if you flip over to the adults, we also run a special needs holiday scheme. I hate that expression, but that is what it is. So any child that couldn't attend a normal youth club or something in the summer holidays, Easter, Christmas, we actually run a phenomenal service around that. It's a lovely service. And then we've got all of our adult services. So you either get care in the home, which is up to a 3-hour break.
Yeah.
So the carer can go out and do whatever they need to do. We run day services. We run a severe and complex day service. We have what was the Manx workshop for the physically disabled. I mean, what a title. So we've taken that on, and it's just Crossroads Workshop. And the guys down there are brilliant.
I've seen that. That's up at Riley's, up near there.
No, that's our CCV. That's something different.
Oh, okay.
So our Crossroads Community Venture, that is where the guys there get work ready. So anybody that has a learning disability gets work ready.
Okay.
And we get them into employment.
So where's that? That's
place? At Eden Park.
That's at Eden Park, right. Okay.
That's at the back of our head office.
Yes.
And that's brilliant. So all of those guys we know really well. We share the kitchen, the bathrooms, everything with them. It is brilliant. Absolutely lovely, lovely atmosphere. And then, so we took over the Manx workshop for the physically disabled, and that is where the old hospital. So the old
hospital.
Old hospital side.
Yeah, Westmoreland Road.
Westmoreland Road.
Yeah.
It's there.
Okay.
It's in there. And we do garden furniture and stuff like
brilliant.
that. So
okay.
that makes us makes us money as well. And then we're up at Masham Court. So Masham Court was the Manx Foundation for the Physically Disabled building, and we took that charity over as well. So in total, we've taken 2 charities over in the last 10 years.
Okay.
Which is, I think, is a way forward to help organisations that are struggling to be able to continue, because the ethos of what everybody does is really, really
it's the same thing,
good.
Isn't it?
So it's actually been pulled into one.
Yeah, it makes sense to, I suppose, make it more efficient.
Makes it more efficient. Crossroads has a very clever way of working. So delivering services is, we've devised a way of being able to deliver a lot of services with perhaps a smaller amount of people.
Yeah.
Keeping within the legislation.
Yeah.
We've also got, obviously, all the shops at the moment. We'll have got 4 shops at the moment. And a new community space.
And that's when lots of other charities are closing their shops down.
Yes, yeah.
Yeah, gosh. So the care, sorry, just to go back to the care part, is it free or do people pay for it? I mean, if you look at the website, it says there's a list of charges. So I guess, is it means tested? How does it work?
So no, it's not means tested. So what actually happens is there are some services you can buy.
Yep.
There are some that are free of charge. And obviously our nursery is a proper functioning nursery. So people pay to come to our nursery. I still think we're possibly the cheapest on the island. And yet we give the most amazing expertise.
Yeah.
So it's varied. But if you phone up and find out, it does depend on your circumstances. It depends on what you want and how you want it delivered.
Right, okay. But the government funding doesn't impact, that's privately run. So is it run as a business, that part? Or
So I have a social enterprise and we have Crossroads.
Yeah, okay.
So we've got, Isle of Man social enterprises. I think we were the first people ever to do a social enterprise.
Okay.
But along with the then chair and my finance director, we decided that this was the best way to protect the charity.
Talk to us about a social enterprise. That sounds fascinating.
Well, social enterprise is quite... I think a lot of people have got them now. So it is the arm that is allowed to do things commercially.
All right. So it competes fairly with private business.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
But I think there's a real misnomer out there. So a charity such as Crossroads is also a business because we have to.
Uh-huh.
So we're guaranteed that everything we do is within the legislation of employment, the Employment Act, all of that. So it's quite hard because you have to bring in funds. You're also doing contracts, which bring us in money. So we've got some contracts with the department, with Manx Care and other government organisations. And we also have to keep within the employment guidelines and to make sure that all of our books are done. And when we say our books are audited, it takes forever to audit our books because we're such a huge organisation. So we're very much a business that is a charity. And it isn't that the business takes over the charity, because the charity ethos is absolutely paramount to what we do. But by law, we have to run as a business.
Yeah, well, it's a not for profit, but it's a not for loss either.
And my Karen, our finance director, I tell you now, she can tell you how much a loo roll costs. She is that good.
Excellent. Yeah, I think there's quite a lot still in stock from the hoarding that went on at COVID, isn't there? Yes. Well, thank you. That's a great story, and thank you for sharing that with me. So, if you don't mind me asking, and primarily, this is my day job as a financial planner. I mean, what was money like for you growing up? I mean, you've mentioned that it's not a driver for you in your role.
Okay. So, I was brought up in Warwickshire, and interestingly enough, Eric Idle from Monty Python, on the bright side of life.
Yes.
His mum brought me into the world. I was born at home.
Gosh, really?
In deep snow, yes. And I have an older brother and a younger sister.
Yeah.
My father owned a factory in the Midlands, and they moved to the island, in 1982.
Okay.
And I have to confess, it was the year I got married.
Yeah.
And I had no idea where the Isle of Man was, and they suddenly announced that they were selling it up and moving with my younger sister to the island.
Goodness.
So I had a lovely childhood. In fact, I went to stage school. I boarded at stage school, and I met my husband and we moved to America when we got married. And
which part?
To Kentucky. So we actually went to Louisville with my husband's job.
Yeah.
But we both had working visas, so we both worked out there. And from there, we moved about. We've lived in Germany and all sorts of places with my husband's work. Yeah, we sold our house in the UK, and somebody said, I think you better buy a house again because house prices were shooting back up.
Yeah, they would. About that time.
Yeah, and my sister was over here, and my husband said, well, let's just buy one in the Isle of Man because that's where your mum is, and we'll ask your sister if she'll live in it to look after it for us. So that is actually what happened.
Goodness.
And then we've never looked back.
No, indeed. But I mean, I'm just wondering if it shaped your view and how you run things today, because you're clearly very good at what you do. I know you've got a finance director, but you don't, unless you're very good at managing finances, you don't end up particularly.
I think my forte is I'm good at managing people. I'm quite a people person, and I am very good at knowing when to spend and not to spend.
Yeah.
If that makes sense.
Yes.
Yeah. So
how did you learn that?
I think that might be from my upbringing, to be fair. Yeah.
Because your dad ran a factory.
Yeah. And then when they moved to the island, I think their intention was to kind of retire here, but they didn't. And they actually they built a residential home. My mum was always that sort of caring person, and my mum always helped at guides, and my dad's always helped with football clubs. So we'd all of us, all three of us, have that within us. And interestingly, all of my children have gone on to do that. My daughter's husband and my two sons' wives are also volunteer. So I'm really proud of that. I have to say,
you should be,
because they are quite amazing. They've all got children of their own now, but they literally are quite happy to give of themselves.
Yeah, it's a strong theme throughout your family and yourself of purpose, isn't there? There's a strong purpose,
and that's always what we've done.
Yeah.
So, to be honest, I quite enjoy making people happy. I know we can't always make people happy, but that is what I like to do.
And of all the things you've done throughout your life so far, what's given you the most fulfillment?
Gosh, I think there's probably a lot of things. I don't think I could pin it on to one thing. I know it's a bit of a cliche, but I loved being a mum. I had the opportunity for a long while to be a full-time mum, and I've absolutely loved that. I love having a sister and a brother, and everything that comes around that. Some of my most proudest moments. All my kids have got at least one degree. Very expensive children.
Yeah. Yes, treated as their own cost centre.
Yes, yeah. But they've all got married. Those have been really proud moments. And then Crossroads, I'm very, very proud of Crossroads. But more than that, I'm actually really proud, and I genuinely mean this, about the people that work for Crossroads.
Yeah.
Because you've got to care. You've literally got to have that passion inside of you. And I am so lucky because everybody has that passion. And then my tiny little team around me, which is the senior management team, are amazing and will go above and beyond. So and that's lovely.
Yeah.
And interesting, Hannah, who's over operations, Hannah came to me straight from university.
Wow.
So she's worked a few things throughout the organisation, and now she's head of operation.
Brilliant.
And Jane, who came in, who was head of operations, head of adult services operations, she now is my strategic, so she sits alongside me, strategically working our way of where to go to next.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
And we do have a lovely full-time HR. So Jill, our HR lady, has been with us ages.
Yes.
Yeah, which is really good, because I think if you're going to be as big as Crossroads and you're going to be really meaningful, having HR in the next room, to me, is absolutely key.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree with you. So for any existing or aspiring business owner or entrepreneur or community organisation leader, what's your number one business tip?
To keep a level head, but get cross when you need to. Only back down if you have to, and be very conscious of the world around you. So I don't see Crossroads as an entity. I see the bigger picture. So I see the effect it has everywhere else to be able to make the right decision, I hope.
So you're working to the outcome all the time?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Always.
Nice.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Great answer. But what do you do to relax and keep your life in balance?
I have 5 grandchildren. Yes, so I've got 2 grandsons that are 11. I've got a grandson and a granddaughter that are 9, and I've got a 7-year-old granddaughter. And it's constant. They live very close. Everybody's in everybody's house all the time, and at the weekend. Yes, my husband and I do have friends that we do go to dinner with periodically. But actually, I love having the kids about.
Yeah, that's
they are absolutely
perfect foil to
wonderful.
Working.
Yes, yeah.
And what do you think are the best things about living in the Isle of Man?
That's a really interesting one, isn't it? Because I think some of our family across probably still think we're nutty 30 years later for being here.
Surprised I haven't joined you.
Well, yeah, we've tried. I think for me, that it has a sense of community. I like the sense of purpose. The one thing that I am very passionate about is the fact that I really get cross when we keep getting people to come from across or somewhere else to tell us how to do something when when we've actually literally got the subject matter experts here on the island. That drives me crackers. So I love the island. I love the fact there's outdoors. I love the fact that grandchildren are here. I love the fact that my 2 out of my 3 kids have chosen to have their lives here. I love being part of the community. The fact that I always feel, and I think it's partly working in the third sector, that we're not quite good enough.
Well, of course, government got loads of money to spend on things like that.
Well, they have. Subject matter experts are here on the island, but we completely ignore that.
Yeah,
completely ignore that.
I've seen it many times in my own sector, don't worry.
And then when we talk about, the sectors, the third sector always comes last. And yet, actually, we are delivering some of the best care there is on the Isle of Man. So it drives me crackers.
What would you do about it then?
I'd like to just take it on.
Okay. Well, if anybody's listening to here in a position of influence,
you know, I'd love to take it on. Yeah, I've got some fabulous ideas. And like you said before, when it comes to running a business, we certainly know our stuff and we know how much something costs. And we know if we change a bit of it, what effect that's going to have elsewhere, and the fact that that could cost more. Yeah. And I think it's looking at that bigger picture.
So what have you got planned next? Now that you've got the Tynwald Street operation up and running.
Okay, so this year it's 21 years of young carers on the island.
Okay.
So the little fundraising team headed up by Maddie is there. We're going to have a ball and we're going to kick off. So unusually, we're literally going to go from summer to next summer as our year for young carers. And I think we need to embrace and celebrate our young carers. We've got young carers that now work for us, that were my young carers way back when, 20 years ago. They are phenomenal human beings that take on massive roles. If we don't enhance what they do and celebrate what they do, they could get lost and they could go on the wrong path.
But they have so much to teach as well themselves, don't they? They've got so much good practice to share.
There's some wonderful characters over the years that I've gone on to do phenomenal things. Yeah. And I think we should be really proud as an island.
Yeah. Well, I'm listening to you.
Of those young people because they are truly amazing. So yes, so that's sort of our next drive. Yeah. But I'm always looking to any opportunity anywhere to enhance the lives of carers and see that their journey is better than it is at the moment.
Okay. Thank you very much. That's good. Just to move on to our final questions that everybody sort of, oh no, I don't want to be asked this, but are there any books that you've read recently that you'd like to share with listeners as a good read or something inspirational or just...
I can honestly say no.
Podcast you listen to, other than this one, of course?
I've listened to quite a few of these, and it turns out I knew quite a lot of people. For me, no, I haven't. I duck and dive from what's going on outside of the Isle of Man quite a lot because I get very frustrated. I haven't read a book for ages and ages and ages, but if I want to know anything, my husband is amazing. He is the person that will sit there and go and find it out. So if I go, do you know? Or do I need to know this bit? My husband will actually go and do
Fantastic.
that. Yeah.
It's your own Audible right there.
Yes, yeah.
Brilliant. And who inspires you?
I think my mum, she's long gone, and I think my own family.
That's lovely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't think it's anybody outside of that. I think we've always been quite a tight-knit family, and I think that I'm very lucky. I'm very close to my sister, who lives on the island.
Wish mine did.
And and I think that it's really important. My brother doesn't live off the island, but I see him, umpteen times a year. But I think it's quite important that your family is your influence. I'd like to think I'm always there for them.
Yeah, that's nice. That's really nice. And what's your favourite quote? Do you have one?
Just keep smiling.
Excellent. That's a good one. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. I'm not very good with cliches.
No.
I think cliches are, they have their place, but for me, it's about the drive within me and the drive within my family and how that helps other people. So I do have a saying: if you're going to get up in the morning and you work for Crossroads, our job is to make somebody's life better. It's not there to make it worse.
Yeah, it should be everyone's mantra, really.
Yeah, so that's what we try and strive for. I think as well, like I said at the beginning, I think everybody thinks life is going to be perfect, and life isn't perfect.
No.
And I think it's how you navigate that, really.
No, everyone has that wake-up call who's dealing with you right now, I'm guessing.
Yeah. But everybody in your own lives, you think you're at rock bottom.
Yeah.
And you have to, climb up out of that hole. So I think it's very important that that's what we always have in the forefront of our minds.
Indeed. So where can people go to learn more about you, Crossroads, as an organisation? It's the website, I guess?
Our website is the best place to go because it has all the information.
And it's completely up to date. Some people say Facebook pages, but your website is really up to date.
We have Facebook pages. We have several Facebook pages. And Megan, our marketing manager, she deals with all of that. I am not a Facebook fan, but our website is always up to date. She's constantly updating that because I don't like out-of-date websites either.
No, I found you on LinkedIn. But,
but I don't really expose myself on LinkedIn.
No. Well, thank you for
exposing
myself. Yes. Well, thank you for talking to me so candidly today. That's been a real pleasure.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Jackie.
Thanks.
Island Influencers is a fortnightly podcast. Make sure you don't miss the next episode by clicking the follow button on your podcast platform. A big thanks to the producer and editor of this episode, Catherine Watts and James Spooner at Bear Content. And thank you for listening.